Welcome to the Brain Gain Youngstown Leadership Series podcast. Each week, we'll learn from leaders who are driving change and making an impact. Now here's your host, the CEO of the Youngstown Publishing Company, Jeff Leo Herrmann.
Today we are speaking to Marc Malandro. Marc is the Vice President of Operations for Science at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Is that correct, Marc?
Absolutely.
Did I get that right?
You got that absolutely right, yeah.
All right. Well, and for those of you who've not met Marc, he is not only a YSU distinguished alumni, but a resident, born and bred in Brookfield, right? Both of us. So we have
got something in common, yeah.
Yeah, that badge of pride to wear. But no, I tell you what, I still have a lot of Brookfield stamped all over me as far as kind of the way I operate day to day. So, Marc, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. You're one of our first diaspora that we're speaking to here on the podcast, someone who's gone out and made a big impact on the world with your roots right here in the Youngstown market. So, Marc, do you want to give us a quick overview of kind of who you are and what you do today?
Sure. I got trained as a scientist, and that actually all started at YSU. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do and ended up taking a biology class, and one thing led to another. And I found out that if you could work in a lab at YSU as a student worker, they let you schedule first, so I could actually get my classes, which was fantastic. And met a great guy. His name was Dr. Anthony Sabota, who took me under his wing and really got me into and a love for sort of biology and science. And so I stayed there through my bachelor's and master's, and then went on to the University of Florida to get my PhD. And so I've been grounded in science in everything I'm doing. And so this role here at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative was the ability to give not just funding, but to partner with technology at sort of interface between biology and computing, and give a significant amount of resources in areas of unmet need for basic biomedical research. And so it was an interesting sort of once in a lifetime opportunity to be at the sort of earliest stages of building blocks of a new charitable organization. And it was just, it's really great. And so we fund basic biomedical science all around the world. And as I said, one of our differentiating features, other than just giving money, is being able to partner on the sort of technology platforms, data sharing, data analysis, data visualization. So trying to accelerate science and trying to accelerate science for all scientists in really an open and freely available public sharing environment. And so it's really a great and interesting place, and I'm happy to be there, fortunate.
Absolutely. So at the intersection of science, technology, analytics, visualization, solving big real world problems. Now, did you at the time, say when you were growing up, and we often ask our guests, did you think you'd be doing this as a child when you're kicking around Brookfield? Do you even have any idea?
That's the problem when people keep asking me that. What can I do to prepare for this? Absolutely nothing. I had no idea. My original thing I wanted to be was a radio DJ. And I actually did that and worked at in the region WWIZ when it was there, WOKG when it was there, Z Magic when it was there. And so I wanted to be a disc jockey. And so started down that path, and then probably had maybe 10 majors. Like I said before, Dr. Sabota got his hands on me and showed me that this could be a path. So I had absolutely no idea. I always had a liking for science and math. It was something I was always good at, but it wasn't something I knew or thought I could make a career in, particularly a career that wasn't just like being a professor. And so it was a way of getting into a space and then sort of maneuvering around and taking advantage of opportunities as they come up. But I would have never guessed I'd be doing this in a philanthropy.
So then the role of an educator in your life was extremely impactful, right? So that one person, there's that, one person that kind of got you off in that direction, and then obviously you had to work hard to get there. But
he was the one in college, and there was one in junior high school, and you may remember his name. His name was Mr. DeJulia.
Math teacher.
He was a math teacher. Exactly, he was a math teacher, and he gave me a love and appreciation for math that I didn't have prior to that. And so between him and Dr. Sabota, they're the ones who really set me on this course. And like I said, I thought in order to do something, you needed to be a professor. And so I kept going to school, because it was a way at that point in time you could actually have a fellowship, and it was like a career to go to school. But if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, a middle school math teacher. I believe he was 7th grade math, if I remember correctly.
He was 7th grade math, exactly.
Tough, hard. He was tough from what I recall. Very demanding.
Oh yeah,
but
very demanding, but fair. And also, I think he was one of the first to set expectations, I think. And I'm a firm believer that you either set expectations high or low, and your people are going to end up meeting those. And so it was that expectation setting to him that the difficulty didn't matter, because he wanted you to do well, and he would take you on the journey as long as you were willing to go on it. And he was amazing.
Right. Now, in your work today, day to day, you refer back to Mr. DeGiulia or Professor Sabota as far as your leadership style and philosophy today?
I would say yes. From a mentorship perspective and from an empowering people perspective. So I'm 100% believer that in personal relationships and in hiring good people and empowering good people. And so they were the ones who taught me that even that smallest thing, that thing you could think of, when someone asks you something, you do it if you can. When someone asks you for your time, you do it if you can, because that could mean so much to those people. And it's what I said. I gave the commencement address at YSU a couple of years ago, and it was that thing we talked about. Professor Sabota again, and it was you don't realize that you could actually be making a difference in some person's life by just doing something very small and very simple, and having the ability to focus what I do on that and focus on people. I found, at least for me, I think it works very well.
Right. And it does build community, because I think what you're saying is, what I hear is maybe a small investment in your time could amplify and provide an exponential impact on someone's life. You may or may not even know.
Yeah, absolutely. And they may be the person you need to rely on in the future as well. So I don't believe you do something for someone with the expectation of a return. You do something for someone because it's the right thing to do, because you can help and potentially empower that person. And if it comes back full circle, great. If not, it was well worth your time to be able to do that.
That's fantastic. So what big problems are you wrestling with today? So looking at the scope of your work, what big problems are you wrestling with, and did your upbringing or your education here help you prepare to wrestle with those big problems?
I think, like everyone else, we as an organization are trying to wrestle with thinking about what life after the COVID pandemic looks like. So we pivoted a lot, and we're funding a lot of research, still are, and taking a lot of our focus and work towards COVID. Now that it's in post-COVID days, what does it look like? How are we thinking about participating in, let's say, an international surveillance effort that can spot this the next time, or whatever comes next? So I would say what we're like in a post-COVID world, as well as what the office looks like. Right now, we're trying to figure out whether or not we'll be going back full time, or is it going to be flexibility, or what does that look like? I think one thing that I always learned, from the region was sort of a work ethic. And I think that work ethic is something that I try to not necessarily instill in people, but try to foster the fact that if you're willing to work hard, it doesn't matter where you work. It doesn't matter how you work. Just do your work. And the honest day's work for an honest day's pay is a cliche, but it's absolutely true. You can't have a distributed workforce working from home and track what people are doing every day, every hour. What you have to do is you have to trust that they have enough of a work ethic to be able to do that themselves, to be able to focus on these are the tasks I have to accomplish. And my situation is different from your situation, but we're still working to accomplish those same tasks. And I think because of, sort of the manufacturing and a lot of the blue collar economy that was, Youngstown, Mahoning Valley, Brookfield when we were growing up, it really taught me to appreciate that and to trust people to have that same work ethic. The other thing is that when you talk about the challenges we have, are the challenges right now with sort of handling and thinking through and working through big data. Big data is not just a problem of technology companies. Big data is also a problem of life sciences and medicine. And as people have the ability to accumulate more data, they have the ability to accumulate videos where they had pictures before. Really, the how data is handled, moved around, analyzed is something that that everyone's going to need to focus on clearly for the next several years as well.
The Brain Gain is a collaborative effort, and we'd like to thank our headlining sponsors, including Farmers National Bank, Sweeney Chevrolet Buick GMC, the Mahoning Valley Manufacturers Coalition, and Southwoods Health. Also included are Eastern Gateway Community College, PNC Bank, the Moransky Companies, the Mahoning County Career and Technical Center, the Youngstown Business Incubator, Simon Roofing, the DeBartolo Corporation, Youngstown State University, and Junior Achievement of the Mahoning Valley.
I was just going to ask you kind of on the lighthearted note, say you're, when you're in California and you say you're from the Youngstown area, what reaction do you typically get, if at all?
I guess first and foremost, they think Rust Belt, and they think about sort of who we used to be rather than what Youngstown is and what's becoming. But it gives you a great opportunity to teach people. Sort of where the region is going rather than where it came from. And then I do tell them that my grandfathers and my father worked in a steel mill. And so it's telling them about the transformation of the region by necessity. Also telling them about the transformation of what YSU means to the local community. And how sort of, I was in Pittsburgh for 14 years, sort of how Eds and Meds transformed Pittsburgh is something you see in Youngstown. So when I tell them things like the Youngstown Business Incubator and some things like that, it's a great way of opening people's eyes to sort of thinking about the region in a different way, where if they never asked me the question, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right. And have you heard of the term Voltage Valley yet? Have you seen that hashtag splashed around?
I have, which is an interesting thing. Yeah.
Right. That's something that we speak to a lot around here. But you're right. It's using the opportunity to educate people on where we're going versus where we've been. And just from your perspective, I mean, you're closely associated with our region here, but have an outside view looking in. So what potential do you see relative to things like where, when I say Voltage Valley, obviously we refer to the Lordstown Motors, we refer to GM, LG Chem, joint venture, Ultium Cells, and the potential development in the EV market. So what perspective do you have, or what do you see kind of from your purview?
I see the importance of relying on regional strengths. There can be no competition. The competition isn't within the region. The competition is outside the region. And the more people focus on how we can all lift the region together, I think that's important. Even way back to, people taken aback by when America Makes was able to come into the region. It was like, why there? But I think leveraging shared strength, shared focus is absolutely important. And like any other region, there has to be two other very important things. There has to be investment capital, and then there has to be talent. And that talent has to be willing to you know, to both move there, but more importantly, stay there. So how can you show people who graduate from from YSU and other schools in the region that this is a great place to stay, and here's why, here's the potential, here's the future, and if you stay here, we will build an infrastructure and ecosystem around you that will support you. So you don't have to go looking for where's the next company I want to work for. It may be that entrepreneurship is something that you can think about. It may be that, grabbing onto what is next for the region is something you could think about, and I'll have help, and there'll be people here who are doing the same thing as me.
Absolutely. And even to that end, fostering a culture of entrepreneurship, even the opportunity to work at large global organizations, but reside here, because we'll still take the tax revenue, right? And your kids still go to school here. I think the pandemic, sounds like you've studied the future of work. The pandemic an outcome has been the opportunity for someone to sit in Ohio or in Western Pennsylvania, but have a global impact, a global role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'm sitting here in Pittsburgh, and my family is still lives in Brookfield and lives in the region. You couldn't tell where I was right now. And I think that's going to be the nature of work going forward too. You're not going to be able to tell where people are. And the more people lean forward into some sort of flexible work environment, the more they're going to choose places that have other things in them other than the place where I have to work. And I think that's an opportunity everyone needs to seize right now. It's how do I empower those people who want to stay here to be able to stay here? Yes, we can rely on a cheaper cost of living and things of that nature, but making sure the investments are in the schools, the investments are in sort of the all of the ecosystem that someone would want to be a part of. I want to live here because I choose to live here. That's going to be what the future is going to be. I choose to live here.
Right. And that's actually good to note for business owners, because, there's a war for talent. And so companies that reside here in this region in Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania do now have to compete on a global level for talent. So it's not simply people within proximity, but there are a lot of options. So that, therein lies investing in company culture, investing in the work-life balance, and or is that something that the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative focuses on, company culture?
Absolutely, and it has changed with respect to COVID, but company culture is really, really important to us. Since we have 3 separate initiatives, trying to keep connection between those initiatives has always been a little bit of a challenge. Having a workforce that is everyone from newly graduated people to old people with gray hair like me at the same organization requires some effort to be able to do it. But we intentionally try to create those opportunities, and that's what really with remote makes it difficult, is because the unintentional has to become intentional. You're not going to run into someone in the hallway. You're not going to do that. So you have to really intentionally think about that culture building. And as long as you take those times that are face to face to really, really be intentional about connection, and if you think about over communication, I think it leads you through this as good as can be. I know at the beginning of this, everyone was thinking we have to Zoom for everything. But now it's the point where a phone call actually feels a little bit even more intimate when you're not seeing someone on the screen. I'm talking to them on the phone, which everyone has been doing for years. So I think it's just evolution of the way connectivity looks, with the focus though of making sure that you can maintain and sustain those sort of person-to-person interactions, because it's the people connection that are going to make sort of the company culture sort of flow from there.
That's true. Do you, to close out our conversation here, do you have, say, a favorite leadership quote or something you refer to that guides your efforts day to day?
I have a lot of them, but there was one from Bill Bradley, who was a senator. He played for the Knicks, and he said that leadership is really unlocking people's potential to make themselves better. And the way sort of I work within our organization, the way I try to help people is trying to make people better. because if you make them better, they're going to make you better. They're going to make the organization better. And so that has always been one that I really like. The other thing is I've really learned to really appreciate Adam Grant. Adam Grant is a psychologist, and he's a faculty member at UPenn out of Wharton, and has a book called Give and Take, amongst others. And Give and Take really is talking about why helping other people succeed actually makes you succeed. And so if everything I do is about empowering other people, and in doing so, having them propel you as well. And so, yeah, Adam Grant, his podcasts as well as his books I try to read as much and hear as much from him as I can.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. Well, Marc, you've been very generous with your time today. Certainly great to hear from somebody that's, born and bred here and making a big impact on the world. So to close out, is there a good way for people to get a hold of you, say on LinkedIn or some other place?
Yep, I'm on LinkedIn, and that's good. Also get a hold of me by email as well. It's mmalandro@chanzuckerberg.com. I'm happy to connect and talk and try to help as I can.
Thanks. Appreciate your time today, Marc. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast today, because together we're building a culture of entrepreneurship and promoting workforce development. So if you like what you heard, please share it with a friend and leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast player. Your feedback is very important to us. We want to make the show better all the time. And if you would like to give me direct feedback, email me, please. My email is jherrmann@business-journal.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. And lastly, would love to thank the members of the Brain Gain Coalition. Those headline collaborators include Farmers National Bank, Sweeney Chevrolet Buick GMC, the Mahoning Valley Manufacturers Coalition, and Southwoods Health. And joining them are members of the coalition, including Eastern Gateway Community College, PNC Bank, the Moransky Companies, MCCTC, the Mahoning County Career and Technical Center, the Youngstown Business Incubator, Simon Roofing, the DeBartolo Corporation, Youngstown State University, and Junior Achievement of Mahoning Valley. Without them, none of this would be possible. So thanks again for joining us today. And remember, together we are building a culture of entrepreneurship and promoting workforce development.
Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that little bell for notifications. And also make sure to connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. For all of your business news, visit businessjournaldaily.com. For all of your arts and entertainment news, go to afterhoursyoungstown.com.